start recording. Today's episode is episode 27 of Maudecast, or 25. Cold open today, Morgana, what was her last name?
I can't remember. He's the fake Maude, isn't he?
It's fake Maude from the US Olympics. This is Morgana's diary. Morgana is talking of her stalking incident with Maude, and it wasn't really Maude. It turned out to be Udien, her future husband. And as it's a diary, there's only one person doing it, and that has to be you. So, how are you set for that?
All good.
Alrighty, and action.
To diary, it's me, Morgana. I went on a shopping trip today to pick up a watch for my sister, Maury, and I didn't have enough money, so quite frankly I took it, I half-inched it, and then some lunatic with a moustache attacked me and some fat bald guy, so I kicked the snot out of them, and then some guy pulled up in a car, called me Maude, got in, drove for a bit. I just played along with it for a while, and then we reached a gas station in which I decided I was going to ditch him, but then when I was in the bathroom I had a change of heart for some reason, and I came out, he bought me a Snickers, and that touched me. So I said to him, where are you going? And he said, well, I've been living as an imposter called Mo 2 months. Now I am hitting the road, going to Tijuana. You want to come with me? My name is Bogdan. And I said, yep, let's do it. So now I'm engaged. I hope I don't see that weird mustache nonce again.
Maude, it's a mud good cast, season 3 unshakable and rewarded faith. She's a French comic lover-related woman. She's got ruined apple pies but unruined club sandwiches, teaching us the jar of shame with a super secret Hernandez clipper and homophobic scrapbook, footnote of a footnote in TV history, and even in her own podcast. Low-key hostility is the go-to for modeling Rhubarb Flanders. Season 3, episode 6, episode 27 or 25, 6 to 4.
Nice.
It
The
is nice,
numbers
isn't
are
it?
everywhere.
They are, but you got to keep entering them into that machine, or who knows what kind of heck will break loose. Hello,
Exactly.
good morning, Maudman, and not Mo's wife, Clum. Prohibit yourself from cramming down any swine, my sister. Brought to you by the Maudecasting Corporation of Ron Dibney's Multiple Eels. Sponsor, Ianis Xenakis of all of the clapping. Sponsor, Log Lady Twin Peaks, what's her name? Sponsor, Chips, California Highway Patrol. Sponsor, Bradley Walsh, who's his best chaser. Sponsored Life, cause I don't want to meet a ghost. That's the sight that I fear most. I'd rather have a piece of toast. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Sponsor, Meat. Sponsor, the Royal Dutch Shell and China National Petroleum. Sponsor, 4th tier Marvel hero, Union Jack, a.k.a. Squire of Avalon, a.k.a. Devil Slayer's sidekick.
Yeah.
What
a
is
new
the
roster.
a new roster-ish? Ianis Xenakis. I did put an 11-minute clapping extravaganza at the end of episode 25, which I believe, in your wisdom, you have edited down to a more manageable time.
Yeah, it was. The episode finished around 47 minutes, and I looked and I thought, why does this go on for another 11 minutes? And then I found out why.
Because
So
I
you're
decided
welcome.
to extend the clapping section at the end for a good 10 minutes. I enjoyed it, and I'll tell you who else would. The avant-garde composers of Europe in the mid-20th century. However, what is the log lady's name?
I think it's Margaret, but I can't remember. I just remember in the return she phones Hawk a lot, the Native American police guy, and I'm sure he calls her Margaret and not log lady.
I see.
The actress is called Catherine Coulson.
It's unusual to have the same name as the actress and the character, but it does happen. Can you think of an example?
No.
I believe Creed from The Office, his real name is not Creed Breton, it's William something, and apparently the character of Creed, his real name is the same as the real name of Creed in real life.
I just thought his real name was Creed Bratton, and the character is called Creed Bratton.
And he was a musician, right? So he's in a band called the Grassroots in the 60s that had that big hit that goes, na 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 na, live for today. It's a great song.
I like, this is off topic, but when he says, the last person who crossed me, his name was Creed Bratton.
The Creed cast. I think there's a strong case to the Creed cast, regardless of whether it has any relationship to Springfield. Keep watching and listening to these spaces. So Jack Derrida came by earlier today and he dropped off an envelope with some more quotes in, and here is one.
The traditional statement about language is that it is in itself living and that writing is the dead part of language.
No, I disagree with that, because writing, you write and you speak the same language. Maybe it's slightly different in places like Japan, where the characters don't. I suppose that's just because of me looking at the alphabet, though. The characters don't represent the letters, do they? They represent like phrases. So in England, you have to use the same words to write as you do to speak. So I disagree.
Maude. I disagree, Maude.
Yeah.
So we got to make sure it relates to Maude Flanders' life, and I think we got away with it there, just at the end.
Well, she writes in a diary and speaks aloud, so...
And here is the irony. She actually is dead, but the diary is still alive.
Yeah.
In more ways than one, not least of all the fact that somebody still seems to be writing in it from beyond the grave. But also, Jock does say the traditional statement, and Jock, if anything, is not a traditionalist. But the idea being probably that once it's written down, it can't change, whereas language that is being spoken and listened to disappears and has to be repeated and changed every time, though quite how that relates to Maude Flanders, I don't know. Jacques got us, hasn't he?
Kind of. I
still
think that it's relatively applicable in that she's on like her words aren't dead. Her spoken words aren't dead because they have been made to be played back over time as they are on a television show. So
and her spoken words were written.
Yes, but in this instance, I think he is wrong because Maude's spoken words are also dead in a way as they're in the past. However, the end.
So I banned a bunch of people in the last episode, if you remember, such as Debbie78 and the Belgian O'Leary. And one person I banned was Vulcan Hyperbole. And unfortunately, I happened to run into Vulcan Hyperbole. But when I was shopping in Affordable Booze and Threepenny Slaughter, I happened to run into Vulcan Hyperbole. And they weren't very happy. But Vulcan Hyperbole had apparently he'd mocked up a kind of Mad Max style chariot, and he attempted to run me over in Threepenny Slaughter, and a lot of damage was done. And we ended up destroying most of the stock on the shelves, and it cost us £9 each to replace all of the stock there. So that wasn't such a good encounter this week, but I will say that if possible, Vulcan Hyperbole is now double banned from listening to this podcast.
Yeah, we don't need people like that. But I think the £9 will be covered by Royal Dutch Shell.
I don't know if they're in for us, but I did drop in on my lawyer, Josh, at Finance Homicide, which is kind of like a pound shop / law agency, and he's currently advising me. But
excellent.
What I'd like to do is, before we move on, is to just check in on those burnt down Vatican City and Isle of Man and so on MFIMDBs, because as people know, if you're listening for the first time, we are the co-owners and curators of the Maude Flanders Internet Museum and TV database and Hotcake Fish Shop, and we're part of a worldwide chain of several hundred Maude Flanders Internet museums and databases, and now we're unfortunately somebody has been setting fire to us, and our occult liaison officer, Mr. Nathan O'Leary, has been working with the head of security, Diane, to try and work out what's going on with these toasters and these tithing ponds. Have you got anything to report since the Maude tea towels found in the catacombs of Paris, and obviously the catacomb tunnel that eventually leads to the catacombs of Wigan?
Yeah.
Anything to report?
Well, Diane went back down into the catacombs and found the Nicholas Flamel hidden thing. And unfortunately, it didn't really help us, but she has kept hold of it in the hope of having immortal life. She said that she's committed to at least 450 years of working for us, though. So that's nice. But yeah, they led straight through to Wigan under the marble. and she found some like spooky green ooze. And the last I heard from her, she was following that trail.
Oh my goodness! Well, the last I heard was she sent me a fax from the storeroom of the Pound Bakery that said she'd found some ooze in the sausage, in the vegan sausage rolls.
Good.
Somebody cracked open a Scotch egg and it had Maude's face in it, in unrelated incident.
As always, all of our paths are leading us directly back to the Pound Bakery.
The Pound Bakery, but enough of that madness. So one other person I banned was our official poet, Krang Chad Choff. And in celebration of him being banned, he wrote a poem for us and posted it on our YouTube comments in an attempt to sway public opinion away from us. He actually recorded, I don't know how he managed to do this, but he managed to actually record an audio YouTube comment. Beep. Mordcast flies on shit. Two brothers who can't even see, but I imagine they are spotty twats that love dad cartoons and think it is saucy. I'll tread hardly on your dreams. I'm chuff chuff, string of insults. I'll insult you, you fried chicken choking drinker. You probably drink gravy, you gravy drinker. Gravy drinker, I will see you in jail. Beep.
Nice, covers some of the great contemporary themes. I wonder what Derrida would where he would place that in his quote about writing being dead and alive, seeing as it was an audio comment.
Thankfully, Jacques died before audio was invented, and therefore we don't know what he has to say on that. Now, have you got anything more? You got anything more you'd like to add before we get to the content of today's episode?
Yes, I do have I had a message from the Hobo Robot on the case of Maude shooting Mr. Burns, and he has slightly more evidence.
He or she, we don't know we don't know what genre Hobo Robo is.
No, but this was the message. Beep. Hello, Nathan and Brandon, Watchdog Museums. I've been looking at the scene of the crime, and the small Simpson Lisa suggested that with his last motions, Mr. Burns pointed to W and S, which from his perspective were M and S, which meant Maggie Simpson, but what if it meant Maude Shot or Marks and Spencer's? See you soon. That was it.
Beep. So interesting though. So what if it did mean Maude Shot, or maybe he thought her name was Maude Sanders and he got it a bit mixed up, and he wrote that. So I think there's more conclusive proof to put in the bank, and maybe if we pass that on to Josh at Finance Homicide, he could put it into the folder for us.
Yes.
How about we do a Mauditorium, because I forgot all about that before we jump into content. Or do you want to do a Maudio commentary?
We'll do a Mauditorium.
All right, give me a number between 1 and 300.
48.
48, okay. Supporting wife and mum. Nothing new there, but, it's worth having another chat about that. Maude Flanders, supporting wife and mother.
I agree. The more we get into it, the more we see her. There's moments where she isn't a supportive wife, but I'd say ultimately she is, especially if Ned's having a tough time. That's when she tends to up the supportiveness. If he's all right, she's a bit more snooty with him, but except for the time she let him walk out to his death, other than that, she's supportive. And we've never really seen her be anything other than good to Rod and Todd. There's not been any neglect.
No, she cares for them. She, is she over? Is it a crime to be over cautious and no sugar and protecting their ears from rough language in this day and age? Maybe she's good through and through, except for when it comes to the crunch, and she'll send you out to your death or put you in constant danger. So it's kind of like on a micro level, a day-to-day level, she's very, very caring, but then you'll get these big incidents where she just throws caution to the wind and wraps you up in a blanket and puts you in a river, or drives you at a high speed through the side of a train.
Living large.
Supportive, but psychotic.
Yeah. Oh, there's something going on in there that we don't understand fully yet. There is a piece to the Maude puzzle that we have yet to fit into play.
It would be a brave and bold person who would claim that one single piece of that puzzle would connect all of the madness of Maud Flanders, but that's what we're looking for. Who knows? Maybe in the catacombs of Wigan below the Pound Bakery, we're going to encounter that final piece of the jigsaw puzzle. Maybe it's hidden in the diary. Who knows? Anyway,
Maybe.
let's move on into the content. The content, this week's content is a strange one, isn't it? It's a bit of a sweep up episode. It's a bit of a scratching in the dirt episode, but those are the ones I like when we get down there and get dirty. Tell us a little bit of context about this week's content, if you don't mind.
Yeah, two of them are in the correct place of our chronology, but they're the first two clips are sort of catch up. We're looking at the opening credits and a couch gag. The couch gag is from season 4, but it was replayed in season 7 at the point where we're at, which is what I've included it now because I forgot about it in season 4. And then one clip from season 7 that she's not actually in, but she's in, and then a commercial that we missed from round about season 5. So yeah, sort of loose ends cast.
Exactly. So clip 1, this is the opening sequence of the Simpsons TV show that was used up until around season 20 when they went HD, and there was a fancy new one that I'm guessing is Maude not in the new one.
No, they got rid of her.
Anyhow, I knew if they made a new one, she'd definitely be in there, wouldn't she, in ghost form?
Hopefully.
Yeah.
But yeah,
anyway.
It's odd that she wasn't in there.
It was still in that period where she hadn't really come back.
But it's strange because this was the season when she made a comeback, because she had a flashback episode, and the first time they show the new credits, the HD ones that she's not in, she's in that episode twice, 3 times.
Opening sequence, so we pass by, we do the big, it was super cool. You gave me a slowed down version. That was cool. That was kind of like some groovy YouTube Simpsons wave. Anyway, we see Otto, Dr. Hibbert, and a few other minor characters. And then we see Maude with Todd and Ned, no Rod, in the garden of their house. Maude is watching a bluebird fly away. So we get the classic 3/4 back of the head shot that we've come to love dearly in recent episodes. And we see Todd, he's talking to Ned, and I think Ned's got a little bluebird on his hand, and the bluebird is escaping away from Maude. What could be going on there? It's a second.
I would say possibly even less than a second. It's sort of, it's a quick pan over that you have to pause to appreciate. I always thought Rod was there, so maybe I've looked at it wrong. I thought it was the 4 of them, so I don't know where Rod is. But this would have been officially the first look at Maude, because this would have aired. This is the second set of credits. The first season had its own set of credits that were a bit more rough with a couple of changes, and they don't have the pan across all the characters. So from seasons 2 to 20 this ran. So yeah, this would have been your first look at Maude before the golf game.
So this is technically her first appearance.
Yeah, it looks very biblical, doesn't it? Very Garden of Eden-y, kind of natural, maybe a Disney princess kind of. Snow White, was it?
It's a beautiful, and you can imagine that shot being used should they have done a more classic sitcom opening where they panned across several families smiling and laughing like a Too Many Cooks style kind of thing, Family Ties, and you would have seen the 4 Flanders in their garden like laughing with like bluebirds all over them. According to worldbirds.org, the spiritual meaning of the bluebird is joy and happiness.
That would be accurate.
The bluebird is a symbol of the angelic realm. Its meaning is one of happiness, grace, and delight.
Well, she's, in a way, you could count that as very, very subtle foreshadowing. That the first thing you see her with is the bird that represents, what did you say, the angel realm?
What did I say? The symbol of the angelic realm. Flying away beautifully into the sky away from her as we see her with her back turned. And people with their back turned in dreams, well, that's also a sign of loss, isn't it?
There you go. Heavy
Maybe not. I made that up, but I'm guessing that's what people say if people have their back to you in a dream.
Which Maude will later do with Todd in his dream.
Really?
Yeah, she's like pulling him on a trolley, but you can only see the back, and then she turns around and she doesn't have a face.
Oh yes, that's right. Yes.
Yeah, brief short clip, but it was worth throwing in there for now because it appears almost every episode for 20 years.
Yeah.
So she is there. The presence is always felt.
If you dream about someone you know as their back turned to you, it means you feel guilty towards them as you have wronged them in some way. If they have their backs turned, it means that you feel rejected or alone. Maybe we do feel rejected and alone that Maude has left us so early. Some foreshadowing there, a good 10 years early.
Yep.
Clip 2. So this is a couch gag. As you said, it was shown more than once, but it's from the Monorail episode. We got the Simpsons sat on the couch and many characters running. We got Patty, Selma, Krusty, Skinner, Burns, Smithers, Princess Bubblegum. What's her name? Princess Cashmere.
That's the one.
Maude gets to sit in the third row from The Simpsons next to Barney, Moe, Chief Wiggum. She's wide-eyed and goofy and really interested in what's on the TV. And so essentially the whole of The Simpsons front room is filled with other characters from the show, all in the way watching the TV. Yes, would Maude be up for a mob like this in real life? Would she have joined them and sat in The Simpsons house? And what could have led to this? Now, obviously, the couch gags take place in some kind of alternate universe, but what could have led to such an event and what might be on the TV to capture their attention?
I believe that she would definitely take part in the mob, just because she tends to lose her mind, not in an insane way. She just loses her conscious thinking and becomes part of this collection, this one collective character called the mob.
The collective unconscious. I was listening to the Simpsons Four Finger Discount a week or two ago, and they noted on this that very quickly the mob in Springfield is used very, very often. I mean, I'd say one of every 2 to 3 episodes in this era involves a big mob of 10 or more people running around just forcing something through.
Yeah, definitely. She's all around seasons 8 and 9 because of the mob situation more than anything. I don't know what they would be watching on TV. Maybe the Judgmental Hour.
Now, that would work for Maude, but it surely wouldn't have enticed Moe and Skinner and Wiggum to be in there.
I've always been under the impression with the couch gag that they are sitting down to watch that episode of The Simpsons.
Yeah, so the Simpsons TV show exists in that alternate Simpsons couch gag world.
I think so.
Yeah, that's bizarre. But it does cut at some point to the screen, does it not?
It cuts to the TV screen, yeah, with the names of like Matt Groening and Sam Simon and James L. Brooks, and then it starts the episode. So yeah, I've always just I've not really ever thought about it too much, but when I do think about it, that's my instant sort of idea, is that they are watching. Let's gather around and watch The Simpsons, like what the audience are doing.
I can't think of a TV show that would have captured Maude's attention. Surely she wouldn't be watching The Simpsons. She would not be a fan of that show.
Probably not, but Maude's in it, so she'd probably like that part of it.
So maybe this is the first episode of The Simpsons ever, and in The Simpsons couch gag world, they're all very excited that their town is going to be in that show, and they're all hoping that they'll appear in the episode. And this is why they're all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. And I imagine it would be cool if we could cut to the end of that episode and see the disappointment on their faces, as most of them didn't appear at all, and even the ones that didn't come out of it looking very good. What was the first episode? Was it the Christmas one?
Yeah, it was the Christmas where they get Santa's little helper.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I imagine it would be similar to how they all gathered around to watch Poochie.
Exactly.
And then afterwards, the atmosphere would probably be the same.
I imagine it would be a frosty atmosphere. We cut back to the sitting room, and Maude's left, and then we cut to her in her house, and she's raging and ranting, disgraceful, taking our beautiful Springfield town and making a mockery of it, and showing those debauched Simpsons at the core.
Yeah, I think she'd be on the phone to Helen, and they would be getting some protest placards ready.
Yeah, and just imagine she accidentally was sent the DVD of season 11 in the mail, because I'm guessing in the couch gag universe, maybe she lives a long and happy, normal life, because she's not going to be encountering as many of those wacky things. Although it's still fairly wacky, right? And in many ways, the couch gag universe is more wacky than in the regular universe.
It is, and she does appear in a couch gag as a ghost, so she obviously is the same thing, but she dies either way.
Oh well. R.I.P. We still love you, Maude. Clip 3?
Yeah.
Maude Be Not Proud. So the Simpsons are in the mall, and they're heading out to get a photograph taken. Don't know the context, but they're all wearing their Sunday best. Maude's got that little hat plonked on top of her big tower of hair.
He called Marge Maude twice.
Ka-ching, ka-ching. I have to drop a coin into the Maude jar every time I do that, and I do it on a regular basis. So the Simpsons, not with Maude Flanders, but with Marge Simpson, go into the mall to get their picture taken, to get the family photos taken. They pass 3 photos on the wall of the Flanders family. One of Maude and Ned in front of a big pink love heart, standing weirdly apart from each other and wearing regular clothes, nothing too fancy. And then, I wonder when that was taken and why those pictures are exclusively of the Flanders on the wall, but we'll get to that. And then we see one of the family all suited up. Maude is looking resplendent, sat in a long grey gown, and Ned is reversing the old shoulder touch, and I think Ned has his hand on Maude's shoulder, and Rod and Todd are in some nice little monkey suits. We see a third picture of Rod and Todd in the same suits. What a day. And then we cut to a photo on a table of Ned in that fake Time magazine cover that you see people do. And it says Man of the Century, which Homer says must have been a pretty slow century.
Yeah.
Which is a good
This
guy.
is from the... It is. That's why I left it in. It doesn't really need leaving in, but this is the Christmas episode where Bart steals a game from the mall and try and save, and he gets banned, and then doesn't tell the family, but then Marge wants them to go and take this nice picture, so they've gone back, which is why they're all dressed up nicely. It's supposed to be like a nice Christmas picture. Yeah, it's very interesting that this photo shop in the mall seems to be a go-to place for them, because they're wearing 2 different sets of clothes, which to me says that's 2 separate occasions. And no pictures of anybody else, just pictures of the Flanders family.
See, that's the weird thing, isn't it? So we don't know who's we're assuming the person running it has no real strong connection to the Flanders family, but it's not like these pictures are particularly amazing. Maybe they're the only respectable family in Springfield. Is that a possibility?
It is, but again, they could have 9 times out of 10 with this situation, it would just be a family of characters you didn't know. Just if it was a portrait on the wall of a shop where they're just going to get pictures taken. I suppose it was to set up the pretty slow century gag.
I think the main thing is probably to just highlight the goodiness of the Flanders and just to set up that the Simpsons ain't all that.
Yeah, like a little sort of, that's the general theme between the Simpsons and the Flanders. So it's nice that there's little subliminal hints at that in places like this. There is a possibility that somebody does know the Flanders who owns this place and gave them like a free photo shoot in exchange for being able to display the photos.
Would you like to speculate how and why that came to be?
Sure. It's owned by Willard Tinker Turnbull.
And yet again, Willard
cousin.
Tinker Turnbull, for people who are not in the know, is Maude's cousin, son of Rex Turnbull, her uncle. Again, another Goodman who somehow made their way from the Springfield township of North Dakota to Springfield, whatever state they're in. I mean, we did say at one point Springfield, Oregon, but I don't know if we bought into that.
No, it's better to keep it a mystery as well, I think. But yeah, maybe the early days, I imagine, pre-Simpsons family moving in, I imagine Maude really enjoyed Springfield. So I imagine she would recommend it to people, which is why the likes of Willard ended up there.
Yeah, and maybe there's some kind of sistership going on between the Springfields there of North Dakota and whatever state they've ended up in.
Perhaps. It is always possible that is the Springfield in question, but it's unlikely.
This is where I was just going. Struck me for the very first time that maybe she didn't go anywhere.
Maybe it is Springfield Township. Unlikely, but because none of them have the accent, but they all sort of have a variety of accents. It's sort of like everybody moved to Springfield and nobody was native to Springfield.
How very American. How very American of them.
Like,
Slow Century, also the name of Pavement DVD. Pavement, one of the greatest rock and roll bands of all time. And I did Google to see whether one of them was referencing the other. Much more likely that Pavement were referencing The Simpsons than vice versa, but it doesn't seem to suggest anywhere that there were any references going on. So maybe they both just came up with this funny, surreal concept of there being a slow century.
I like the idea that Homer doesn't think he was there for that century either. Like, he doesn't remember. Like, he isn't thinking about it as the century he's in. It's a different century.
Yeah, must have been a pretty slow century. Nice. The game Barstow was Lee Carvello's putting challenge, which you can now play online. Should you like?
Yes, he stole the game called Bone Storm.
Oh yeah, of course.
Then,
he got Lee Carvello's challenge, didn't he? He didn't steal that. He got it and he didn't like it. He got it at the end of the show, didn't he?
Yeah, and he tried to look pleased because Marge had, put some effort in. She thought she got the correct game, so he just, plays along with it as if it was the correct game, which is sweet.
The video game every boy wants.
Yes.
Clip 4. This is poof. We're into some really fiery territory here. So Butterfinger, the crackly honey sweet based candy bar, which is not available in the United Kingdom or Japan. Have you eaten many Butterfingers on your trips to the United States?
Yeah, I quite like them. You can get them. There's a couple of places in England you can get them. Like sometimes Poundland.
Poundland, yeah, they're discount Poundland ones, aren't they?
They do like an American section with the real stuff, and so yeah, occasionally, but
it's a unique bar because it's got like a peanut crackle in it. I think it's a bit of a weird one. It's not really for me, but kudos to them. Kudos to Nestle pushing the boat out on that one. Is it Nestle?
I think so.
It is. I don't think it was Nestle back then. Nestle own everything now. They own all the water in the world, don't they?
They do want a lot of water.
So this is a Butterfinger commercial. Butterfinger, Crime of the Century advert, era season 5. So there's a news reporter outside the Springfield courthouse. The crime of the century has been solved, says the news reporter. And we get another classic back of the head and even body shot of Maude just at the back of a crowd. She's got her arms aloft and we've got a rod and a tiny Todd. Ned is holding a Butterfinger sign. Maude is very excited. She's literally leaping for joy or something with her arms up in the air. And the reporter says, we're here to find out who laid a finger on Bart's Butterfinger.
She's very invested in this crime to say that she doesn't like Bart. This is picnic and food fight and everything. This is around the time of Sideshow Bob saying that he wasn't going to kill her. Yeah, maybe she's just part of the mob again. She's just into the idea of a crime being solved, regardless of what the crime is.
Yeah, she probably just goes down to the courthouse and cheers every day that a crime, that someone goes to jail. We know that she was happy for Marge to go to jail. She doesn't like Bart. She doesn't like Homer. She certainly wouldn't like the Butterfinger candy, even if it were. We don't know how she feels about multi-global national corporations, but we certainly know she's not a fan of candy bars for her children. So the whole thing is somewhat perplexing.
I concur.
So we're here to find out who laid a finger on Bart's Butterfinger. Homer is rolled out strapped to a trolley like Hannibal Lecter. Maggie crawls up on Homer and rips off his face to reveal it's Krusty. And then Krusty kind of like falls down the stairs. The Flanders have now moved to the bottom of the stairs and Maude now has a sign in her hands. Product placement? What madness is going on here that Maude Flanders will be stood outside a courthouse with a big Butterfinger sign? Did she make it herself? Have Nestle provided people with these? Sure, she likes the mob, but really? Butterfinger? Maude turns to Ned looking somewhat perplexed. And then we cut to the winner of the competition, Miss Nancy Fedholm of Hudson, New Hampshire.
Live free or die.
Yeah, the Nancy Fredholm cast will be
exactly
rounding up episode 90. There's nothing really to say about it other than she's selling out. Is my logic is that Nestle, this commercial is happening in both Springfield and the real world, I believe, and that they are potentially aware that they are filming a commercial. Because again, there's another universe. There's an episode in season 11, I think it's the last episode, and it's like Behind the Laughter, where it's doing like a documentary about making The Simpsons. So there is another sort of element of, are they actors putting on it? Is Maude the character playing Maude Flanders? But I think that's too much of a mind F to get into now.
I don't know if it's enough. Not in the world of Jacques Derrida. He would say, keep digging, my friend.
Friend, keep digging.
Yeah, so there is the potential that Maude is just an actress taken, but again, because the Simpsons family was still a family in this documentary, and Ned was still the next door neighbor. So I think it was just more like an office style thing, maybe, where life was already going on, and then somebody came in and said, let's film and make a TV show. So in that situation, the actress Maude would have signed on to do the Butterfinger commercial, but I can't see a situation where our Maude would agree to do it.
Maude, the character inside the TV show The Simpsons, inside the TV wouldn't, but if we go back to our couch gag, I imagine Maude, the real person in Springfield, she would do a commercial that might not be fully in line with the character on the TV show, but there's not that many characters from the TV show in there, is there, in that Butterfinger commercial?
No, it's a strange group. I believe it's just the Flanders and Jasper stood there at the end, the person who sold them the house.
Exactly.
And the strangest thing to me about it is that it's not Ken Brockman, that he's called Scott Christian, and they only ever really use him if Kent Brockman is doing something and they need to go to another report. That's the only time he's ever really seen. So it's very strange that, unless there's a series of commercials with Kent Brockman placing him somewhere else, but I just thought it was a strange choice that it was the secondary news reporter.
One would like to think the Butterfinger universe was well thought out, and people had determined why Kent Brockman wasn't there. Who knows? Maybe there are more Butterfinger commercials, but if Maude's not in them, we don't care.
No, there's only one more commercial that Maude is in that I can find, but it's coming up in our chronological run, so I've just placed it into the correct place, but we will see it soon.
Well, I think we've done ourselves proud there with a good chunk of time dedicated to those 4 slivers of clips, none of which really feature the real full Maude Flanders we know and love. We have an opening sequence, we have a couch gag, we have a photograph of Maude from the real Simpsons universe, and then we have the Butterfinger universe. So we've stepped a little bit into the Maudiverse there. I, for one, think we're all a little bit richer for that.
Yeah, it feels like we're developing the universe in a very commercial way.
And I think we'd all agree that commercialism and capitalism is the real reason why we're all not just living in a ditch eating old potatoes.
Exactly.
God bless cash and money.
It is our God.
Exactly. Pounds rule everything around me. Preem. Get those government bonds and invest over a long-term low yield. So last few weeks we've done a Maude art, and then we ran short of time last time, so I think we can give ourselves a few minutes to dig into some real spookful speculations, or what we've come to know as developing the Goodman Turnbulls. You threw up a couple of questions this week that will be good to answer, so let's dig into, how did Marilyn Goodman die?
Yeah, I thought about this last yesterday. I was incorrect, and not to give too many spoilers away, but I thought Maude's mother only got mentioned once, but there is in fact a second mention in the 200th episode, The Trash of the Titans, with Homer becomes the garbage man. And initially in the story, the garbage people refused to take the Simpsons trash for, I can't really remember the reason, I think he got into a fight. And so the front garden is full of just rotting trash. And Ned comes round and says, Maude's parents have visited and they're fussy about orders. So that was a nice surprise that I didn't know was in there. And I would like to speculate that the negative effects of all this trash gave Marilyn some kind of sickness that killed her. I think it's important that Homer also, without knowing and without the Flanders family knowing really, Homer also killed Maude's mother.
I imagine she caught cholera.
Yeah, dysentery.
Yes, something bad that involved lots of
Trench Maude.
trench Maud. She succumbed to trench Maud. What season's the episode 200? Is that like season? That's only season 10, right? Isn't it?
Yeah.
So that's before. So we still think that Marilyn passed away before Maud's funeral, and that's why she's not there.
Yeah, it changes the time frame in the between half. That episode is like towards the end of season 10, and Maude dies halfway through season 11. So in that period of time, Marilyn also passed.
Tough times, tough times. Question 2 of your 3-question list. What happened to Laurie Goodman?
Now this one is even darker because I started thinking about the Kennedy family and the Kennedy curse. And I imagine, given the Flanders general unluckiness, I believe that there is a Flanders curse also that extends into family members on both sides. And I believe Laurie went back to confront Mr. Burns and try to bribe him again on her own. Some year or 2 after her first encounter with him, she started like getting files on him, and she went round and really blackmailed him. So he had her lobotomized.
Goodness me. And what happened to her after that? Did she end up like Jack Nicholson in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest? Or did she did she pass not long after?
I believe that Smithers still tends to her in a room somewhere.
Oh my goodness. So he's got her in the mansion, not really responding, just in there.
Correct.
In a vegetative state.
Yeah. A dark end for a dark character.
Well, maybe there's a way, either in the real world or in the Simpsons world, to reverse a lobotomy through some kind of technology, surgery.
It could be done. And my notes aren't fully concluded, so who's to say it hasn't been done and I just don't know about it yet.
Exactly. Maybe we'll find out in a diary if Laurie somehow manages to regain some semblance of cognition, some lucid cognition, and escapes the mansion late at night and somehow makes their way on instinct alone back to Maud's house.
I believe that Smithers is quite a good guy deep down, so I imagine he would initially treat her very well, and then if she did start remembering who she was, I believe he would probably help her escape. Burns tends to forget things as well, so it is likely that Smithers maybe looked after her and freed her years ago and just lies to Mr. Burns about her still being there.
One can only hope, but let's wait and see. Time will tell, won't it? Last question, then I have one for you. How did Maude meet Ruth Powers for the very first time? We've speculated that, as with Janice Hubla, Maude has known Ruth for many years before she arrived in Springfield, Whereverville.
Yeah, I think she met Ruth at university. In that year, she was at university in
You
Tulsa.
mean the Oral Roberts University in Tulsa, where we speculated Maude studied for a single year?
Yes. Did we decide on what she studied?
I do not believe we did. We speculated that maybe it had something to do with pharmacy, because maybe that's how she met Ned, but there's been no proof of that. And there's some evidence, because she does seem later, as you have said to me in private chats, she does something health related in the community. So who knows?
Yeah, I would say it was either health or theology based. But yeah, I think she met Ruth there. I don't think Ruth was a student in her class. I think Ruth was probably her roommate. And Ruth sort of, much like she does with Marge years later, I think Ruth maybe taught Maude some of that sassiness and ability to stand up for herself. And in return, when Maude found out that the Winfields were moving, she put in a call to her friend Ruth and said, "This house is available. Why don't you and Laura Powers come here?"
Yes, this would all make sense. Isn't the Ruth Powers episode, isn't there a Thelma and Louise element to that, or have I made that up?
That is this. There's 2 episodes within a couple of years of each other that she appears in. And the second one is her and Marge go on a Thelma and Louise style trip, yes.
Do we ever find out Maude's opinion on that friendship, given that it seems to trump her own strong friendship with Ruth?
Not at all. And it sort of comes around because Marge has a spare ticket to the ballet and Homer won't go. And Ruth comes around to return like an object she's used. I can't remember what it was, but so Marge asked us to go along. So it was Marge reaching out to Ruth rather than Ruth reaching out to Marge. So I don't think Maude would mind too much. And again, they only really hung out the one time and then they didn't do it again. So I imagine Maude had no reason to feel threatened. But then I do think that Maude probably went down the route of not introducing, because Ruth's sort of around in crowds, but she isn't really around when they have the ladies. She isn't really considered a ladylike character. So I imagine Maude just kept her away from all of her other friends.
Yes,
to avoid her losing Ruth.
Yes, I think Ruth's more tomboyish or less stereotypical ladylike behavior may have caused Maude more than a few. May have ended up with Maude making more than the odd excuse as to why Ruth wasn't there or why she didn't want to invite her along. I've got a question for you. This question is, last week we talked about Morgana. We also mentioned her in today's diary, and you speculated in the cold open, last week that Morgana must be a cousin. Therefore, one of Maude's currently unnamed aunts, which there are two of, must have a child. Can you speculate on which aunt is the mother of Morgana?
Yes, I believe that she's called Rochelle. And
Rochelle Turnbull.
I think she's married. I think she's Rochelle Huntington.
We'll check that out. We'll put that in the database and we'll see what it spits out.
Excellent. I think she's the second youngest of the Goodman children after the one that we saw at the barbecue.
Well, the other one at the barbecue is Eliza, the black sheep of the Turnbull family. We obviously have Marilyn, Maude's mother. We have Kez and Balthazar, and now we know of Rochelle. So there's just one Turnbull sibling currently unnamed. But my goodness, are we doing some genealogical gold digging here? The good kind of gold digging that results in gold, not the kind where you catfish old men.
No, the good kind. I think Rochelle moved to a different continent as well. Relatively young, perhaps Australia, and that's where she lives. But then her daughter was not the nicest of girls. I've forgotten her name again.
You're really struggling to keep this name of Morgana, or just Morgan. So I think that she has some links to Morgana Le Fay, the Arthurian witch and mischievous character.
I see.
But we shall see.
Yes, Morgana is the daughter of Rochelle, but they are estranged.
And Rochelle's journey was a young girl's journey from Milan to Perth.
Precisely.
Exactly. So, do we have time for a page from Maude's diary today? Maybe we'll hear about one of those universes, those different universes that we touched on earlier, or who knows what we'll hear about. It's out of my control.
Yes, I do have a page right here.
Excellent.
Dear Diary, today me and Neddy were sat on the couches. I was having a bit of a knit and he was underlining passages in his own Bible. Rod and Todd were upstairs napping because they'd been too energetic when playing, and it concerned me and Ned, so we sent them for a nap. And then somebody knocked on the door, so we went over, and it was a man from the Butterfinger company, the candy company, and he said, "Hello, we are putting together a little film, a little short advertising film. Would you like to be in the background of it?" So Neddy asked some questions about the company and what they stood for, and found out that they are the #1 saviour of endangered pandas. And as Ned knows, pandas are my favourite animal, so he agreed. We all agreed that we would come down, and he said all we needed to do was bounce around, and then we found out it was involved with those naughty Simpsons kids too, and that they might get into some kind of trouble, so we were up for that. So we were supposed to be catching up with Jasper for dinner anyway, and we just decided that we would all go down and make some money, but we got paid in Butterfingers. So now we just have lots of candy and we don't know what to do. So I'm gonna start mailing it to my relatives, and I'm gonna spike some with hallucinogenics and give them to Helen Lovejoy. Bye, diary.
Well, it took a bizarre turn at the end, which makes me think that maybe the Maude Flanders in that diary was not the Maude Flanders in the rest of the pages of the diary. That would make no sense. Unless, of course, this whole diary was simply a prop from the Simpsons TV show in a Kubrick-esque twist where he couldn't just use an empty diary as a prop. He had to write every single page of the diary so that it was genuine. But no, that has perplexed me somewhat. I can only assume maybe it was a joke that Maude was going to lace her candy with hallucinogens. The whole thing seems somewhat bizarre, and I really wonder if you can give me a take on what the heck was going on with Maude there.
I think she was just feeling maybe some adrenaline after a long, exciting day making a TV commercial. And because the crew had sort of hung around the house while they were doing some form, somebody had left some LSD, and Maude wanted to get rid of it, but she also wanted to mess with Helen a little bit because internally she doesn't like her. That's about it.
That all makes sense. So maybe she snuck on the forbidden fruit and ate some Butterfingers, and a combination of some kind of nut allergy and a sugar rush somehow pushed her over the edge, and she wrote that diary in the midst of a mad Butterfinger trip. Not only citing Nestle as the savior of pandas, but also attempting to drug fellow citizens. All in all, a somewhat bizarre and fitting diary entry to a bizarre set of clips.
It is likely as well that she didn't commit to doing it. She just thought about doing it.
Yes, because sometimes, you might write things like when you write an angry email and then you don't send it. So maybe the diary is just a place where Maude tries out her darker thoughts.
I think so. I think it's a place for her to store her dark impulses so that she doesn't commit to doing them. I imagine if she sat back down 2 hours later after having calmed down and having a nap herself, if she was to reread that page, I believe that she would have already gone back on those decisions.
Well, following this logic, and you might be able to see if there's any pages torn out of the Maude diary, because maybe she did read them back, and maybe there were some pages that were too dark even for Maude, because she's revealed some pretty stone cold sides of her. But maybe there's some pages where she's like, oh, this is too dark for me, and she even ripped him out.
Maybe she hasn't confessed to shooting Mr. Burns yet.
Not yet. Well,
so maybe that got ripped out.
Maybe that can be an end of season arc. Maybe that'll be the reveal at the end of this season. What'll be in episode 6 of we're going to do 12 episodes this season.
I think this is this number 27?
This is episode 27, which would make it episode 6 of the season, would it not?
Yes. So this is our halfway point.
Halfway point. Although episode 12, isn't episode 12 going to be a cast? So we only have 5 more straight up Maude episodes left of this season. Yeah. So who knows what will be revealed. Time for a song?
Sure.
Who's going first?
You.
It is my turn. Otto and Dr. Hibbert with Ted and Ned and Todd and Ned in the garden with the bluebirds.
The angelic realm.
Selma Krusty running, but Maude gets to sit there wide-eyed and goofy.
Coach gag.
Why would Maude be into this TV show?
The judgmental hour.
We got our picture on the wall of the mall.
Try and save.
Big pink love heart, oh what a day.
Don Brodka.
Resplendent in a long grey gown.
Butterfinger.
Butterfinger.
Fake Krusty.
Kramer the sentry.
Scott Christian.
Holding my fingers out loud.
Multiverse Maude.
Maude has the sign.
Multiverse.
Nancy Feldholm.
Multimaude.
Multi-fed home.
Marilyn.
Live free or die.
Eliza Turnbull.
Eliza Turnbull.
Live free or die.
They're free or die.
The end.
The end. We should do the Xenakis in real time. I'll set the timer for 11 minutes. You get Steve Reich on the phone. Well, there we go. We did it. We survived, and we did a great show with just a few slivers of clips. So I'm proud of us. And thanks for listening. We love you all, listeners. And we also like you. We respect you. But we're not afraid to tell you when you're getting on our nerves.
Bye.
Bye. Ding 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 ding.
Excellent.